Every time I close my eyes, I see in front of me.
Let's embark on a journey of knowledge and discovery. Let's learn from the extraordinary lives of the greatest in the art of living.
The art of living.
Join the conversation with hosts Dr. Wael Al-Harasi and Dr. Lamia Al-Haj.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Dear listeners, I salute you with the salutation of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to a new episode of The Art of Living with me, Wael Al-Harasi.
And Lamia Al-Haj.
Welcome back. And our show is continuing after the month of Ramadan on a weekly basis, every Thursday from 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. This is a recorded episode. And all our episodes will be recorded. However, you can still continue and interact with us on Twitter with me and Dr. Lamia through our Twitter accounts. Today's topic, like last week's topic, is focused on balance in life. And this would be the theme of our following episodes as well, balance in life. Last week we talked about, Dr. Lamia?
See, because I'm not balanced, I actually forgot what we spoke about. No, we spoke about overparenting and underparenting.
Overparenting and underparenting. Today, we are talking about life balance and work. Work versus life balance. Mm-hmm. A lot of people might think, is this a real dichotomy? Is there really, are these two things against each other? Are they the opposite of each other? Work and life. What do you think, Lamia?
Well, I think if you ask this in front of an audience of 1,000 people, you'll hear one unified voice of yes, because I believe with the current lifestyle of work and how we are working, that we actually, although it's supposed to be part of our life, because it's part of our daily exercises, but I think somehow it's overtaking the other aspects of our life in such a way that now we have to put on either side of the scale. There's work and there's everything else in life.
Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that we have decided to choose and pick work only to focus on?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of other things in life. There is health, there is family, there is social life, there is activities, there is hobbies, there is rest.
Think about it. What's the thing that takes up most of your time on a daily basis?
Sleep.
Oh, I wish I could say the same. I mean, if we are to ask, and I'm sure that's not the case with you, because what I know you.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think it's because work is overtaking the other aspects of our life, and that's why we chose to discuss work. And this is not something that is, only in Oman or only in the Gulf. This is somewhere, if you just Google work versus life or lifestyle, you'll find loads of articles talking about work versus lifestyle, which means it's an issue. There is an issue worldwide of people not knowing how to balance work with everything else that they want to do. That
is very true. I've come across a lot of statistics focusing on work-life balance and the effects of overrating work and focusing on work more than other aspects of life. It is an issue that is causing a lot of concern. And this is why we also decided to choose this as a topic for the show. Although we don't have live interaction with our audience, but I hope that this interaction will continue after the show when this is aired, inshallah, through our Twitter accounts. And maybe it could also generate discussions among themselves whenever they meet and decide on how to remediate the situation. If you look at work and how people perceive work, I think one of the issues that caused people to overrate work is the definition of success. People redefine success in a work-related term context, only, context. And the success has now been defined as someone who works very, very hard, probably someone who goes earlier than asked and gets out work after working hours.
And his position in the company, the higher it is, the more successful he is because he works harder and he earns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Regardless whether he is successful or he or she is successful socially or not.
Yes.
Regardless whether they are healthy or not.
Yeah.
Regardless of how well they interact with society or not.
I guess there's a confusion between success in your career and success overall?
Yeah.
Are you a successful person overall, or you're a successful person in terms of your career? Because, I mean, believe me or not, there might be a lot of people who are very successful in their jobs, very successful in their career, but have failed with their families, or they have failed to take care of their body and soul. So they didn't strike that balance. So I think the successful person is the one who actually struck that balance between being successful at work and with everything else in life.
Who would you think more successful in life? Someone who is successful in family and social life more than work? Or do you think you'd give more weight to work?
Well, I guess it depends on the role of the person. I mean, this is just my perception. It depends. I would say, for example, a mother, it's by nature that a mother would want to pay more attention to her family, to her children, to her husband than to her job. She's not she doesn't have to be the provider of the family. Okay, now of course I'm talking about when you have a family of a couple. Of course, if she's a single parent, then she has to work. She has no choice. But I'm talking where we have a family of a parent, the mother and the father. The provider is the father. So in my perception, in my view, the mother's role is to have a successful family, to build a successful family. So for that, I would say that having a successful family is more important than being successful at your job. But of course, ideally, is that if you can strike the balance between the two.
That's absolutely true, Lamia. But one thing that I would like to probably make the listeners aware is that we are not experts in the field. We are discussing this because we are part of life and the work is part of us.
Exactly.
So we are just discussing our own lives and sharing our thoughts with you, hoping that you would share your thoughts as well with yourselves and your peers. The other thing is that we talk about work-life balance and success, bearing in mind our culture in Oman, that we are Omanis, and we are talking specifically about our situation in Oman. There are cultures where work is very important. Someone could commit suicide due to a failure at work, due to loss of a reputation at work. That is not the case in Oman. There are much more important things in life other than just work. So as you said, in some cases, even in our culture, work could be very important. In other cases, like the cases of mothers, the ultimate goal would be raising kids, the family foundations, as well as being a good, let's say, employee.
This is interesting because you mentioned Oman versus other countries, and I'm pulling out. I mean, we're not, as we said, we're not experts, but we do back up our thoughts with research that we read online, by statistics that we pulled out for you guys. So we have a little bit of a summary to support our claims. So here, when you mentioned that it depends on the countries and the nations, it's surprisingly, even in the United States, the study done by the National Life Insurance Company says that women in particular report stress related to conflict between work and family.
More than men.
More than men.
Now that is a little bit, odd, but going deeper, thinking deeper of it, we might have the answer. Because if you look at the Organization for Economic Cooperation Development, they've done statistics on numerous countries. And they've came up with a lot of statistics, including that within these countries, 17% of men actually work overtime. And only 7% overall of women work overtime. There are very specific countries where, for example, only 4% of the male workforce would work overtime, and only 1% in the same country would work overtime.
So the trend shows that there are more it's the male who spend more time at work versus the females. Yet
there is more women complaining of stress of work than men. So we will not analyze the results, but these are some of the ideas that we throw at you, at the listeners, for you to think about, for you to discuss. Why is this the case? And why are men working more than women overtime? I think socially they are the breadwinners in a lot of countries, even developed in Western societies. The role of the male is still as a breadwinner means that they need to be more successful at work to earn more for the family towards a more prosperous life.
And an interesting thing to discuss as well is that I don't believe that females these days go to work because they want to earn a living, but just it's more like I want to show that, you know, I'm a female and I can do, you know, I can work and I can, you know, be independent, and it's not really about earning.
Yeah.
Because if you ask a lot of, you know, just casual talk around and you say, oh, you know, why do you work? They say it's not because I need to have my own salary. It's just because I want to feel productive. I want to feel like, so it's not necessarily to earn money,
and sometimes in a more positive tone, because they're just passionate about work. About passion. It's nothing to do with money, earning money. It's just about passion.
That's the case with me, definitely.
Okay.
Because my husband says, how about, you know, you sit at home and I'll give you, you know, enough salary to do your shopping. I said, no, I love my job.
That's true. Well,
but I still, despite the fact that I do love my job, I still suffer from work-life balance.
Then, you know, going back to the statistics, did you know that 40% of the stress cases in the world are work-related?
Yes.
46%. This is why we need to talk about work-life balance, because overworking and overloading someone with a lot of work is dangerous. Not only the social effects are negative, but the health effects on a personal level is big.
Yes.
Stress is related to work. 46% of the stress is related to work. You have cardiovascular diseases related to work. Mm-hmm. You have headaches, unexplained headaches, more regular headaches are related to work. Sleep deprivation, even sexual health issues are related to work. Mm-hmm. So people are overrating work, overloading themselves with work, and the consequences is that they are becoming less healthy, and it's affecting the immune system. Mm-hmm. A lot of people suffer from very weak immune system. Mm-hmm. This is something that I've been discussing with people very recently. Now, if you see how many people at work who suffer from, you know, a little bit of cold, a lot of people in this...
There's always somebody sneezing down the corridor.
Absolutely. And if you ask, why is that? They'll say, oh, the weather changed. Just the slightest change from summer to winter, from winter to summer, although the change is not massive in Oman, but immediately people will say it's just a change of weather.
Sometimes it's just simply exhausted. I mean, when I get sick, it's simply because I'm exhausted. If I have 2 or 3 days where I don't sleep well because I had a lot of work on those 2 days and come back home, then I have my, you know, family commitments, I fall sick as well.
Yeah.
Because the immune system, your body gets tired. It needs to rest.
Yeah. We need, not only that we need to rest, but we need to tackle this issue much more seriously. And we shouldn't wait for organizations or the government to tackle it. This is a personal, individual responsibility to strike that balance. In Japan, unfortunately, we don't want to allow it to reach, the status where countries like Japan has reached, where they have even a term called karoshi. Karoshi means death from work.
My goodness.
Death from work overload. It even has its own individual term because it is so common.
It must be common, yeah.
It is so common in Japan. We don't want to reach that state. Of course, we want to be as successful as the Japanese, as advanced as the Japanese, but not to do it, to overdo it. We need to learn from the mistakes of others. I've been there, and a lot of people complain that they hardly ever have a social life. I have seen children at 9 o'clock at night, still in school uniform in Tokyo. So to avoid all of that, Japan is doing something. For example, you have large corporations like Toyota. It limited the number of overtime per employee for 30 hours a week. So that's a month. 30 hours a month. That's an hour and a half every day. So at 7 o'clock, there are public announcements at some of the buildings reminding employees that you need to go home, you need to think of your health rather than thinking of the work.
That shows the role of the organization. That's a very good example, because I was going to mention something called, there's an ideological norm of the ideal worker. In a lot of societies, they define the ideal worker as a person who spends most of his time at work and he puts work before anything else.
Yeah.
And they make it sound like it's a positive thing.
Yes.
And that ideological norm is actually a negative one, because they're linking a successful person to somebody who commits to their work above everything else. On the contrary, you have these such organizations where sending a clear message to their employees that no, your health is more important and your family is more important.
Yes.
And so they have this technique or this method to remind their employees of such.
Another technique
notices.
they're using is that some of the corporations say you have a no overtime day. So probably 1 day or 2 days a week where employees are not allowed to take overtime. They must go back home and spend some time with family. We initially said it is not the role of the not the sole role of organization to do so.
Yes.
Because sometimes, even when the organization do these things, some employees do not listen.
They don't respond.
They don't respond. In Japan itself, some employees work and switch off the lights to let people think, just to deceive people that there is no one in the offices, and they still continue working in the offices.
That's like every organization's dream employee come true. Because for an organization, what they care about is the productivity of their company. So they would, in most cases, unless you have some organizations that really, follow the laws and they say, okay, we have
It's
to
good
take
as you said productivity, because I like one of the quotes said, focus on being productive, not being busy. Mm-hmm. Because you could be very busy and spend a lot of time just being busy, but not seeing the fruits of it.
Yes, and
So
we're
you
going
need
to talk
to
about that when we discuss the points of how to strike that balance.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to that point.
Inshallah. So I think we have talked about the negative effects of work overload and why we have focused today on work and not others. What would you say the optimum percentage that someone should spend at work?
That's work. Just before we go into that point, I wanted to mention one thing, is that we kept on saying stress related to, work taking most of your time, taking up most of your time versus social life. But I have statistics here that they call it negative spillover. So you can either spill over from more work than lifestyle, or more lifestyle spill over towards the work.
Or you could spill over even the stress from work.
Yes.
You bring it back to home.
Exactly. So in this study, the researchers found that with an increased amount of negative spillover from work to family, the likelihood of reporting stress within the family increased by 74%.
Wow.
Striking 74% stress reported at home because of the spillover from work to family. And with an increased amount of negative spillover from family to work, which would imagine to be less, the likelihood to report stress felt at work increased by 47%. So this is why we need to strike that balance. Either side is not what we're looking for, that balance where we're midway, where we don't have to have any spillovers on either side.
We talked about the negative effects on the individual, but even at a society level, it has negative effects. Again, if we go back to Japan, if we look at the fertility rate, the fertility rate is much below average because of work.
Does the research actually say that it's because of work?
Yes, it's a very specific research work done by OECD. In Japan, the fertility rate among the contributing countries in that research is much lower. It's actually the lowest, 1.4. Compared to an average of 1.7.
That's very interesting. Do you think that's similar to, is that why we see an increasing trend of having smaller families in the new generation, even in Oman?
Yes.
We don't see many families who have 8 or 10 kids anymore like it used to be in the past. They're all limited to 2 or 3. Maybe that can be one of the aspects or one of the reasons, because people are very busy in their career and focus on their career. And they worry too much about having big families and how they're supporting it and how much time they're going to spend with them.
Yeah.
So they decide to have smaller families.
I see this as one of the negative impact of opening up to the world, where people started worrying about things that we never worried about. But somehow we have imported these worries from other nations.
The good and bad.
The good and bad. We shouldn't worry about providing to our children. I can't remember that any of our parents ever worried about providing for us. We will share whatever we have. We don't have to set ourselves a very specific limit. I would like to live by this standard only. But actually sharing whatever we have makes life much more beautiful and much more comfortable. And that in itself is success in life. Being content and being happy with what you have.
Being content,
rather than just
wanting more and more and more.
Wanting more and more and more. And you might live a very good life, but you only have maybe a child and you stop. You want to focus on your career. in some cases, people don't even want to get married. And there are cases even here in Oman who don't want to get married because they want to focus on work, on career.
Yeah.
To them, that is much more important. If you look at the social impacts of a couple who are working and both are very busy and both want to be as successful, and maybe there is a competition between the husband and wife wanting to be very successful at work, what would that...
what are the implications on the children?
Yes. If they have children, what would impact be on them? We start, sometimes, not always, we ignore our children. What would be the impact of overrating work and spending more time in work rather than spending with the children?
Yes.
How will the relationships between children and fathers be? Let's focus on fathers more, because I think the majority of the statistics says that it's actually fathers who spend more time at work. How would the relationship with children be? We will be knowing less about our children, about their hobbies, about their school performance. When they become teenagers, they become much more disconnected from us as parents.
Yes.
Because they've never spent any time with us to build that relationship, that trust. They become teenagers, they might mix up with the wrong crowd, and then by the time we realize it and we want to refocus again at home, it's too late. And we start asking the experts, how can you help me? Well, unfortunately, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
And you need to start working on your family and prioritizing.
Yes. I need to take a second here, and if you allow me, I'd like to send a message to my dad. Because my dad, I would think that he's one of the people that I look up to, that he struck that balance. My dad was very successful in his career. He's always been very successful in his career. But I remember all the moments that my dad spent with me as a child, taking us to school, spending activities with us, going swimming, taking us to the park. And yeah, as you said, that built that connection and that built that relationship. And I think that also influenced me as a mom, as a parent. Because when I go to work and I think, oh my God, I'm stressed at work, and I think, okay, I do have 2 kids waiting for me at home.
Yeah.
And they have a right on me as a mother, and I need to just stop and go back home and spend time with them. So I salute my dad out there, and I just wanted to say a big thank you.
And probably this is a message to all the listeners that we need to think back of how our parents were with us. If the example is really good, then we need to take it further. If the example is not an ideal one, then we need to learn from it, because if it had any negative impact on us, we shouldn't carry that forward, carry the negative impact to our children.
Exactly.
We need to stop it.
Yeah.
So this is how we stop the bad behavior to create a balance.
Going back to your question 10 minutes ago.
Allocate specific time for work.
Yes.
How much time do you think we should spend at work to be able to strike a balance between work and life?
Well, I don't know if we actually have control. It depends on the job. For example, I would say teachers have, they work from 7 to 2. Teachers in the university would work from 8 to 5. People in companies will work different hours. But I think it depends on the number of hours allocated. It's normally around 8 hours a day.
8 hours, yes.
But then you have 8 hours for work. And then you have 5 hours for sleep. Some people sleep 6 hours, 7 hours. And then the rest of the day you want to allocate between yourself, your children, your husband, social activities, spiritual things, and also serving the community if you're into community service. So
Okay.
How can you fit all that in 24 hours?
Let's say 8 hours. 8 hours a day we work. Okay. So, and we work 20 days a month. That's five days a week. 5 days into 8 hours. That's 40 hours. 40 hours. Let's say 40 hours a week multiplied by 48 weeks. We have 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
Let's say we
Annual
work
leave.
annual leave, etc., sick leave. So 48 weeks. We have 1,920 hours. What is the percentage of that compared to the number of hours in 1 year, which is 8,760 hours? It adds up to 22%. So if you work 8 hours flat, you spend 22% of your life, of your time, in your career and trying to pursue your ambitions.
It's amazing because it feels much more than 22%. It's
Maybe-
either that I'm spending a lot of time, more than 8 hours a day, or it just means I'm just too stressed thinking about it. Because it feels more than 22%.
Probably you might be at home physically,
Yes.
but thinking of work.
Yes. You don't switch off.
You don't switch
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
You think of work all the time. While you're driving, you're thinking of work. At home, you're thinking of work. That's why you feel maybe it's not 22%, it's like 82%. Yeah? Because sometimes you might even have nightmares.
Yeah, that's
You're
true.
sleeping and sometimes you can't even switch
It
off.
can take over, yeah,
It
absolutely.
can take over. So 22%, if we say that 22% of your time is for work, then the rest 78%, what do you want to distribute it on? Because if you also sleep 8 hours a day,
Oh, I wish.
that's already 44%. That's 44% of your time gone. You remain with 56%. 56% of your life, what will you do? As you mentioned, what do you have?
Well, there's myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's the family, which goes to husband and children. And I would actually put it into two categories.
Okay.
Children and family, children and husband.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, social, my friends. So
An extended family.
Yeah, an extended family. Spiritual. I wanted to be
Okay.
able to do my prayers without rushing like a rocket. And I'd like to read my Quran without having to rush either. So
Yeah.
spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And community service.
Community.
Serving the community.
Yeah. And so you have 5 other items that you would like to spend time doing, and you have 50% of your life, which means that you need just over 10% each. Yeah, just 10% of your time each.
Yeah.
It's and we haven't considered a lot. What if you really want to do a business? What if you want to establish a retirement fund for yourself?
Yes.
Because just working your 8 hours a day might not guarantee a
Yes.
good retirement fund. You might want to do some sort of business and allocate some time for that, other than community voluntary work.
Yes.
So it is quite a lot. And if you consider family, it's easy to say 10%, but is it really enough? Because the type of activities that fall under family are quite a lot.
Yes.
I want to spend quality time with my wife.
And then there's homework time with the kids, and there's
Homework time,
playtime with the kids,
playtime.
preparing for bed, and
It's
there
quite
goes your
a
day.
lot.
Yeah.
And not only homework, what about the things that you would like to teach other than homework? It's quite a lot, and it's very draining. It's quite draining trying to do all of this. Social. Now, could you please elaborate more on social? Because
Yeah.
it's sort of blurry nowadays. Social used to be going and physically meet people.
Yeah.
And today it's WhatsApp and Twitter.
I'm not referring to that. I mean, if anything, we need to discuss that, by the way. Why?
Uh-huh.
But I was talking about, I would like to have more time in social, real physical, meeting people, going out there, having coffee with my friends and catching up with them more often. Meeting my family, extended family, my uncles, my husband's family. We used to do much more of it in the past. I mean, I can see the trend.
Yeah.
I've been married for almost 13 years, and I can see the difference. You know, the first 5-6 years, I used to go literally from one house to another, and then when we finish the round, we start again. And now months and months pass by without us going anywhere, other than our parents, our direct parents, like my parents and my husband's parents. And the excuse is, we don't have time.
Money rich,
Well, I'm not
time
really
poor.
money rich.
Say
but
alhamdulillah, you have enough. You have enough. So, money rich, time poor.
Yes.
We don't have the time because we haven't struck a balance
Yes.
in our life. We spend a lot of time making money and we don't have enough time to spend it.
Yeah. Like the people who work so hard to get money, but they can't even go on holidays because they're still busy making more money.
And I remember a quote, a very good quote that says, "Do not spend all your time making a living and forget to make a life." Making a life is very important.
Yes.
And I think this summarizes a very important thing about success when we said, what is the definition of success? Yeah, success is about making life and not making a living. Making a living is only one tiny little aspect of it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a reason for you to have a better life.
Yes.
Yeah,
And a
it's
lot
like
of
a
people that I really know, they don't even have time to go for a vacation. They make a lot of money. They enjoy their careers. But what about rest? No time. Some families even focus, some families, they go to vacations without their father because their father is busy working.
Wow.
Yeah. So we need to be very careful.
Yeah.
We need to be very careful and think of our priorities in life. what actually we want to achieve in life. How can we really strike that balance? And I think starting from specifying 22% of your time and sticking to it, if you really want to exceed that, do not exceed more than 25%. Now, if I say 25%, that's 9 hours. Just a little bit, just over 9 hours.
Yeah.
But let's say for easy calculations that you do 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
Then that is already 25% of your time. That's a quarter of your life.
Yeah.
Exceeding that every day, I think you need to rethink very carefully your priorities in life.
And they don't have to, I mean, for the people who are finding it difficult to strike that balance and who spend a lot of time, overtime after working hours, it doesn't have to be a drastic change suddenly. You're going from, spending 12 hours, for example, to 8.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna work. You have to you feel like it's too difficult, it's overwhelming. No, this is not gonna work. So the ideal situation, I think, was going to be reducing the time slowly in intervals, or deciding, like, every Monday I won't stay overtime. So you get yourself into the habits, and you get a flavor of how it feels when you go early that one day.
Yeah.
Children are going to be happy to see you coming back early and spending time with them. You will have time to relax and put your feet up and take a deep breath. So just get into the trend slowly or gradually. Don't make it a sudden change.
That's a very good advice. And probably some of the people might think, what will I do during that day? You don't have to sit there doing nothing. You could do something else.
Think about what you want to do.
Yes.
What is the thing that you want to do that you don't have time to do? Write them down.
Yeah.
What are the things that you always wanted to do? There's always, if you ask anyone, what is something that you wanted to do but you don't have time? I'm sure some people will have, if not a list of things that they would like to do when they have more time in their hands.
Yes. Some people might need to think twice because they have forgotten what life is all about, and all their ambitions to do the things they always wanted. It is just wiped out because they're so deep into work. But I think we need to, a lot of people, if they spend some quality time just reflecting back on the days before work, what did they want to do? What were their aspirations? Maybe they were far away from their current situation today.
Yeah.
And here we would like to, mention a strategy that we think that could work for people who like to shift from the current situation where they're overloaded with work, or they're overloading themselves with work, into a much more balanced state.
So we're going to talk about how to be able to balance.
How to balance.
In our limited knowledge.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, I think you need to do an assessment of where you are now. Mm-hmm. You need to do an assessment of where you are now, and do an assessment of where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So, and I think visualizing is a very good tool.
Yes.
Visualize it. If it is very difficult for you to think of how you spend your time, bring a notepad, a scrapbook, and start writing.
Yes.
What do you do? What time do you wake up? What are the things that you do on a daily basis? What are the things that you do on a weekly basis?
So write down a typical
week.
A typical week.
A typical week.
As it is, not as you want it to be. So start off with first, what is your current lifestyle like for the whole week? And write it down.
Write it down, visualize it, look at it, and then think, is this what you want? Or is it what you have to do?
What if it has a mixture of both?
Well, we'll talk about that later, yeah? But one of the most important things is to visualize your current status. Mm-hmm. How do you spend your time? Are you happy with the way things are? Are people around you, people who really matter, are happy with how things are? Because it's not all about you, but it's about the community and the close people around you. Your parents, your children, your other half, whether you're better half or you think you are the better half, it doesn't matter, okay? But think of the people around you.
Yeah.
Are they happy? Once you have done that, visualize how you really would like your life to be.
The ideal life. Weekly schedule. And I remember Rahmatullah alayhi, Sheikh Khalfan al-Aisri used to always say that, this is a very important tool, visualizing things, writing them down on a piece of paper.
Yes.
It helps clear your thoughts, because once you start writing them down, you might realize that you're doing more than what you think you are doing when you start writing them down, because you get into the details, and you'll be surprised when you finish your schedule. You'll be like, oh my God, I'm doing all of this. And then it helps you also, when you have things written down in front of you, say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the things that I have to do. I can't change it. This has to stay in my schedule. I have to drop my kids to school. I have to go to work. And then that leaves you with the other, tasks that you realize, oh, why am I spending so much time doing 7, 8, 9 when I don't really need to do it?
Yes.
And then pulling those out of your schedule, then you have space to put on the things that you want to put in your schedule.
Absolutely. So number 1, visualize your current life.
Yes.
Write it down. Number 2, visualize new life the way you want it to be. The way it make you happy and make the other people around you happy. Number 3, prioritize. And here we need to strike another balance between the things that we want and the thing that we have to. And sometimes there is an overlap.
Yes.
For example, if I'm passionate about work, I also have to work. I have to work and I'm passionate about it. I want to do it. I like to sleep. I have to sleep. Yeah. These things are set. What we could do is maybe the current working system or the working hours, I could shift them so I could still work the same hours, 8 hours, but just shifting them a little bit so I could manage and drive outside the rush hours. And this is how I could buy time to balance aspects in life.
And also some people are much more productive very early in the morning. So they actually go to work before the working hours when it's very quiet, there's nobody in the corridors, and amazing how much work you can get done. Because as soon as people start walking in and the hellos and the coffee breaks, and it becomes a lot of, obviously it's also part of socializing, but it also takes up a lot of your time. You will notice that easily 30 minutes can be removed from your working hour by chatting to one colleague.
True.
That 30 minutes is a lot. That means you can actually leave work 30 minutes earlier.
That is true. But before doing this, make sure that your manager or your supervisor agrees with you going early, and that would be accounted for.
Yeah.
And hence you're allowed to go out earlier.
Yeah.
Some people do not just allow that. I know it doesn't make sense, but they just don't allow going out early.
Even if you come back,
even if you come
arrive
an hour
early.
or 2 hours earlier.
So maybe there must be an understanding between your discussion, the employee and the organization.
Yes. I think this is very important. Otherwise, you'd be spending more time than anticipated at work just because there is miscommunication between you and the manager.
Yes.
So you could go work a little bit earlier to avoid rush hour, and get out a little bit earlier to avoid rush hour, and hence you buy some time. Yeah. And you could do the things that you want to do, the things that you have always dreamt of doing in your life.
Yeah.
So 1, visualize your current life. Secondly, visualize your new future life. Prioritize. Third thing.
Can I talk a little bit more about prioritizing? Because we need to be realistic when we try to fit in everything that we want to do. So you might say, okay, these are the things that I want to do. They're numbered 1 to 10.
Yes.
Is it really realistic for you to fit in all these 1 to 10 into your new schedule? You will be overwhelmed. Again, you might be disappointed if you can't do that. So then prioritize the things that you want to do.
The rule says, sorry, Lamia. The rule says you can do everything, you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Exactly.
You can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Everything.
So think of this before, choosing what you want to do.
Exactly.
Because if you want to do anything, well, if you're capable, you will do it. But you basically don't have the time, so you can't do everything.
Yeah.
Schedule it. Choose what is important.
Exactly. I mean, if you're into sports and you like 2 different sports, you don't have to do both sports every day. You can choose 2 days for sport A and 2 days for sport B. There you go. By the end of the week, you've done everything.
Yes.
Everything that you would like to do.
But before all of these, one very important thing that we didn't mention. Before visualizing, before setting our new targets, and before even prioritizing, we need to know to ask ourselves, what is my ultimate goal in life? What do I want out of life? What is my ultimate goal? What do I want to achieve?
Yeah.
Answering this question, sitting and spending hours trying to contemplate and thinking of this one simple question. If you can answer it, then you will be able to achieve a lot of things in life.
Because everything else will revolve around that answer.
Yes.
It will help you set your priorities.
Yes. If what I want to achieve, if you ask me, I would like to be able to raise my kids to a very high standard, to educate them, to enable them to enter society and be productive. I would like to be a good husband. I would like to be a good citizen. And all of these things could be outside my work. Because being a good citizen is part of work.
Yeah.
And work is part of being a good citizen. But not necessarily. I could be a good citizen by
Community service.
being a good family man, promoting good family and healthy family atmosphere. But, is work my priority? If I have to choose, think of it. If you have to choose, would you choose your work or would you choose your family? Would you choose your work or choose your own health?
I mean, I don't think it's a question of choosing between the two.
But if you have to choose...
It's about striking a balance.
But if you have to choose, if you're made to choose, what would you choose?
Well, for me, family comes first.
Well, for everyone.
But for me, that's easier to say because I don't think you can say the same because you are the provider of the family. You can't say family comes first, therefore I'm not going to work. Well, if you don't work, that means you can't provide for the family. So it doesn't really apply.
It doesn't have to be, leaving work or not doing or not going for work. But if I have a very important, let's say, business trip that I was chosen to go, and I have, a family issue, I would say, sorry, but find someone else. I have to attend to my child.
Absolutely,
yeah?
absolutely.
I have to attend to my wife. I have to be very close to my mother. I have to be, close to my father at this particular time.
Yeah.
So I know it's an opportunity to give me much more exposure and meet, let's say, with CEOs of other companies. But I don't care. Yeah. I have to choose. I will choose my family.
Yes. And that's because your priorities have been set and they are clear already in your mind. So it's easy for you to make that decision.
Yes. Yeah. If you don't set the priorities, if you don't know your goals, you'd be confused. And that confusion in itself is enough to cause you stress and to lose sleep over it because you're confused. True. You can't even sleep. You can't switch off. And that's very dangerous.
Well, I noticed that since we started talking in this show, we always spoke about balance between work and life, and then we spoke a lot about the family and the husband and the children. But even people who are not married find it difficult, and a lot of these people find it difficult to balance between work and life. I understand that it's more of an issue with family members because they have more responsibilities on their shoulders. But what about the people, who don't have families but also find it difficult to have that balance between work and what they want to do? Because they might say, I have no commitments. I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. I can just spend the whole night here at work. And then they end up with also issues and health issues and stress.
There will definitely be health problems. Yes, there is no family to go to, or let's say a husband or a wife. There is definitely a family, but everybody needs a social life. Everyone needs a social life,
It's
good,
healthy.
healthy social life.
Exactly.
We need some time for our spirituality. We need some time for intellect to work. We need some time for our bodies to exercise. We need some time
Serve the community.
to serve the community. In Japan, for example, karaoke is a very big thing. Why? There is no social life. People leave work, they go for karaoke and spend hours singing and dancing, and they drink, and they go back home and sleep. That is unhealthy.
Maybe that's how they define social.
Maybe that's how they define
according
social.
to the society, of course, we need to remember that there's different...
Absolutely. We are not saying that is wrong, but this is not something that we would accept in our society.
Yes.
It is right in their own society, but I would say that we have a very good thing, and it would be a shame that we let it go.
Yes.
Just for the sake of work. And rather than spend quality time with a wife or children, I go for a karaoke. I don't think I would ever want to do that.
Do you sing well, by the way?
Not at all. I'm a terrible singer.
All right, now going back to how to strike the balance. We said the first point was, before everything else, is to define your goals.
Yes.
Okay, to make it clear in your head, because that will make it easier for you to set your priorities later on.
Mm-hmm.
2 is to assess your current life, to visualize it, write it down on a piece of paper. What does your weekly schedule look like as it is, without being, trying to cheat and, reduce your WhatsApp time from 1 hour to half an hour. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, Wad.
Yeah.
And then we need to map out our new life. What would you like your week to look like? And this is where it gets really exciting, and you will realize how much excitement comes as you put the schedule down. Now, once you have all these points listed out, all the tasks that you want to add into your schedule, we need to prioritize all these tasks. Number them from 10 to 1, from most important to least important, and make sure you put those most important ones into your schedule one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, in order to do these 4 steps that we spoke about, I think the role of your partner or spouse is very important.
Yes.
What do you think, Wael?
I think especially for couples who both work, cooperation is very important.
Yes.
They need to cooperate. They need to take turns.
Share
responsibilities. I don't have to be with the kids every day. Sometimes I really can't do it. So I need someone else to do it on my behalf. Sometimes I can't do the chores myself. I need someone to take over. In order for me to be able to strike that balance in life, we need to cooperate.
Yes, we need to share the responsibility.
Even if the wife doesn't work, the father or the husband needs to come sometimes and take over some of the responsibilities.
Of course.
Because not working is not very accurate, because a wife at home is really at work at the same time.
Absolutely. I think it's a tougher job than going to the office.
I can't do it, really. I'm not prepared. And even if I prepare myself, I don't think I'll do a good job.
Yeah.
And because it takes a lot of skill and patience, multitasking, which I really don't have. I have none of that.
That's a very important point. Sharing the tasks between the parents. If I can share this experience of mine, that my husband was very supportive, and what we did was we have an Excel sheet for the week, and we have by hours. We have it the day divided by hours and by days. We put all the activities color coordinated in that 1 week. So my husband's, in green, and he plugged in all the things that he's committed with, and then my schedule in a different color, and the kids.
Yes.
And then we divided the tasks of the children's activities between the two of us. So we'd have, for example, if there's 4 activities, then 2 will be done by my husband and 2 will be done by myself. And having that schedule, just hung, we know that, okay, today's my turn to take the boys to football, today's my turn to take them for swimming. And that helps a lot, because that means I get 2 free afternoons.
Now I really dread the moment that I really open my mouth and talked about this, because my wife would be listening and said, we don't have that.
Well, started it helps a lot, because I was getting overwhelmed, and and my husband's changed his schedule, so he moved the gym to early morning, so he went actually much earlier to work, so he can fit the afternoon schedule. So it can be worked out. Your husband might start, the husband can start by saying, oh no, but I'm busy, I have all these commitments. But really, if he's convinced that this needs to be shared between the 2 parents, there is a way around it, and it can be done.
That's a very good tip. What other tips could you share with us from your own experience?
I think having a family day is nice, to allocate a family day. So if, for example, we have Thursday evenings or whatever, that's booked. That's booked for my family. If I'm invited, I say, sorry, I can't. If there's anything coming up, I say, sorry, I can't, because this is booked for my family. The kids know it, you know it, you're committed. Consider it a weekly meeting that you can't cancel.
Yeah.
That helps a lot, because the kids look forward to it, and we look forward to it. That's the family bonding time. And nobody else is supposed to come in this family day, because this is the 4 of us or the 5 of us going out. And it's a lot of fun. The kids love it, and the parents get to catch up as well. Sometimes we even discuss work, but we're still having a good time.
But that's not a good practice.
No, not really. A few tips when we think about, when we start plotting our schedule. A few tips is to make sure you build time into your they call it downtime into your schedule, which is time where you do something very relaxing. You chill, basically. You call it chill. It's time with your friends. It's a date night with your husband or wife. Something that you enjoy doing. You have to make sure that you put it. Don't make it all full and packed with activities and tasks that are somewhat boring to you. Make sure that you have some fun time in there. It's healthy.
It's healthy.
In short. Drop the activities that consume your energy and time, such as limit the time you spend on the web and social media. I mean, this is research speaking here. It says we often get sucked into these habits that are making us much less efficient without realizing it. If we are actually to put a timer on, you'll be surprised at how much time you spend on Snapchat and WhatsApp and Instagram and Twitter. It can go up to 1 or 2 hours.
Here's what I do. I've agreed with my wife that we will switch off internet completely, the Wi-Fi, the 3G, whatever.
Wow.
And there is no access to the internet after 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., absolutely no access to the internet. We basically don't need it.
Does it work?
It does work, because rather than spending time communicating with people who have no effect on your life, who are not really important, and it is not important for me to know what they're doing at that time. I don't want to know what my friends are doing every single day, every moment. So rather than spending time knowing what others do, I spend more time knowing what my children are doing.
Yeah.
The people who I care most about at home. Once they are in bed and they're asleep, then we can switch on the internet again.
Just to catch up really quick.
On the important stuff only.
Fantastic.
Now, catching up doesn't mean that, I would like to see what's in WhatsApp. Not for me. WhatsApp is not important at all. At all. No matter what happens in it, I really don't care. Because that is not part of my life. What will it add to me? How will it contribute towards my ultimate goal that I have set myself? Absolutely nothing. If there is urgent and important thing, then they will communicate either by phone or SMS, but not the internet.
I should try that.
I think it's a very good thing that I have tried myself, and it works.
Yeah, I think so, because I noticed from my personal experience that when I do say, I'll just check just 5 minutes, that 5 minutes easily extends to 1 hour, because you have video clips. One video clip can be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And even if it's educational, but still, that's taking up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And if you're really interested about a specific thing, then you can just look it up whenever you have your free time. So I do agree with you. Social media takes a lot of time, and I will definitely try your technique of having specific hours where this is blocked for, no social media.
It's copyrighted, so you'll have to pay me.
Pay for it. Okay. Another point is rethink your errands. A lot of people are busy. You can think of the tasks that take up a lot of your time that can be outsourced. If you don't have a nanny, for example, you can send your clothes for ironing at the ironing shop. You can get a gardener to do your garden. You can. You were mentioning an example before when we were discussing Wa'il.
If you have, you could hire a public relations officer, a PRO, to do some of your work, rather than you going to, to the ministries and do this and do that. You could authorize someone to act on your behalf and do these things, because these things take a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah. You will not be productive at work because you'll have to be out of work for many hours.
Yes.
Or, you will need to spend some time, rather than being with your family, you take your holidays to do these things.
Yeah.
So hire someone to do it if you can.
Yeah, and that applies even at home for the parents, people who don't have any helpers. They can start outsourcing some of the tasks.
Yes.
And getting that done. That'll give them a lot of extra time in their hands. Try to include the exercise. Try to include, as much as hard it sounds that, you have a jam-packed schedule, I don't have time to exercise, it's really important to free at least 30 minutes of active exercise a day, because that helps clear your mind and helps you think better. So it's really important to include exercise in your daily schedule. And remember, last point, remember that a little relaxation goes a very long way. It does a lot of help into your system. 10 minutes of doing something that you like, reading, having tea in the garden, having a short walk around, 10 or 15 minutes. Don't tell me you don't have 10 or 15 minutes a day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
There is a way. With that, I think we come to an end. Thank you very much for the tips, by the way. And I hope that our listeners have benefited from today's topic. And next week, inshallah, we'll talk about balance on a totally different thing. On a relationship between two different generations, relationships between us and our parents. How can we balance that relationship with our duties to our children? Yeah, we need to balance how we behave and treat our parents and our children. Sometimes there are conflicts. We will try and discuss this for next week, inshallah. So, in the Art of Living, from me, Wa'il Al-Harasi.
And Demi Al-Haj.
Assalamu alaikum.